Welcome to Conversations with Epiphany. Let's Talk, the show where we dive deep into the essence of what makes our guests uniquely themselves. Join as we uncover the stories, experiences, and moments that shape their lives. From the triumphs to the trials, we're here to explore it all. Let's get talking and discover the heart of every story.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Epiphany. Today, I have the pleasure to be joined by Clarence Williams, who just wrote a new film, The Accused, starring Miss Paige Hurd. Thank you for joining me today, Clarence.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so first and foremost, what was your inspiration behind The Accused, and how did you develop the narrative to explore?
Excellent. So this process was a little bit different. So The Accused was actually an original screenplay that was written by a writer named Pat White. So how I got involved with the project was the production company that ended up producing The Accused in partnership with BET actually brought me on. So the project originally had like a different storyline. I mean, the overall story was the same. It was about a woman who was kind of on the run and trying to clear her name, but she wasn't a scientist. She wasn't black. So once BT got involved with the project, they brought me back to be a writer on the project, and then from there, that's where I developed and added extra, kind of extra nuances and
Right,
gave it a little bit of flavor and stuff. So I turned the character black, and the other characters black as well,
right.
and I was the one that came up with the idea of making her a scientist.
Mhm.
So the original storyline, I do have to give the credit to the original writer, Pat White, but all of like the other nuances and
Right.
also just the importance of depicting like a strong black woman who's
Mhm.
trying to clear her name and just
Right.
battling against the forces that are up against her. That was me. So those were the elements that I brought to the story.
Right. And so when developing those different nuances, how is that process for you? Like I know like we talked last time it was a holiday film. So creating these nuances of, like a little bit of mystery, a little bit of, like this strong like, this black woman trying to clear her name of a crime she did not commit. How is that process for you, or do you like go through the same process as before?
So it's kind of the same process. So with this, what I ended up doing with this script was what is called in like the film world is like a page one rewrite. So that's where I essentially rewrote the script from scratch,
Mhm.
and then so doing that all gave me the freedom to kind of like add all of the nuances and the I was able to kind of focus on the character and kind of start fresh while
Right.
still honoring the original story. So by
Mhm.
doing that, I was able to still kind of work in a similar way as I did with the previous Christmas films that
Right.
I've written, where I was able to kind of start with a blank canvas, and I was able
Mhm.
to add the characters, set up the different dynamics and the different conflicts throughout the story, but also just making sure that I maintained that overall theme of justice. So a
Right.
character that is innocent, like just as you mentioned, she was innocent of this crime, but of course she was framed. So it was all about what are the steps that she takes to clear her name, and also what are the steps she takes to pretty much preserve her legacy and you know inspire people to do the same. Hopefully,
Right.
people don't get into situations like that, but if they do,
Right.
it's
Yeah,
about using that intelligence and making sure that you defend yourself and you defend your name.
exactly. And where does that creative spark come from? Like, what kind of like is it your experience or people or themes that keep you um, you know, pen to paper, so to speak?
Yeah, so I feel like for me personally, it's just a combination of things. It's just my own like influences, the people in my life,
Right.
friends, family, wife, but
Mhm.
then also it's just the movies that I watch, TV shows. I feel like I'm always like a student of film, so I'm always
Mhm.
watching, even if it's a show that I've watched 1,000 times or a movie I've watched 1,000 times. I'm
Right.
always kind of just like studying, seeing like how they set up the different scenes, how the dialogue was written, how
Right.
the types of shots that the directors of those projects use, and all
Mhm.
of that I kind of internalize and just kind of use that to kind of mold and sharpen my own abilities as a writer. So that's kind of like my process. I love to watch things, and especially if it's something I love, I'll watch it
Right.
over and over and over
Yeah.
again.
Right. Are you a director as well?
So I do direct. I didn't direct The Accused or the previous Christmas films, but yes, I do. I love directing just as much as writing. I actually went to
Right.
college and my
Mhm.
major was directing. So
Wow.
I
Yeah.
definitely do both. And in the future, my plan is to continue to write and direct. But if I
Right.
had to pick between writing and directing, writing is my first love. But I
Mhm.
definitely love directing as well, and have directed quite a few projects.
Right. Wow. And how do you keep those like that healthy like balance of like directing along with writing? Like you said, writing is kind of like your first love, like the creative process of it, even like though directing is also the a creative aspect of it. But how do you keep like in balance those two things?
So I feel like it's just about remembering what you love. So
Mhm.
if it's something that you really love, you realize that you'll make time for it. So
Right.
even, if I'm writing like a TV movie or writing a project where I'm just a writer on it, will make sure that like even my personal time or doing something that I'm developing, that I'll be directing something. So
Right.
that's kind of how I keep that balance going. So no matter what I'm writing, I always make sure that at least once per year I'll be directing something, whether it's a short or a
Hmm.
feature or something, just to kind of keep that to keep stretching that creative muscle. So that's
Right.
kind of my balance. I just set like a goal for myself that
Hmm.
no matter what I do, no matter what scripts I
Right.
sell or what gets produced, I'm directing something. So,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
That's a good guess. That's a good way to be. Like, gotta do it. That's true. And how do you keep your voice fresh and authentic across your different projects?
that's a good question. Very good question. I would say I think it also kind of ties back to just the different projects that I write or that I watch, and kind of just studying that. So a lot of like the filmmakers that I look up to, people like John Singleton, Spike Lee, Quentin Tarantino, they all have very unique voices. So when I
Mhm.
watch those films or rewatch those films, I really take note of how like unique and original those storylines are. So I kind of set a goal for myself that no matter what I write, I want to make sure that I also maintain my own original voice, because
Right.
especially like you're writing in a genre that's very familiar, like TV movies. There's a
Hmm.
bunch of Christmas movies that come out. There's a lot of action movies that come out.
Hmm.
So I feel like you can't. It's not necessarily about like reinventing the wheel, but it's about writing something that stands out and that's unique,
Right.
despite the fact that it may be a genre or a storyline you might have seen before, but these characters could be something different, or the way they speak or the conversations they have. That's what can, stand out and be different than the rest. So that's
Right.
kind of just by watching a lot of my film influences, and
Right.
also just I think in general, I feel like I'm kind of like a unique person.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm goofy, but also
Hmm.
am very serious when it comes to like my film process and stuff.
Hmm.
So I think I already have a interesting or like a unique personality. So I just definitely make sure that I let that shine when I'm
Right. Right. That's very important. That's so true. And like you said, watching like some of the people that you are inspired by, that helps a lot as well.
writing.
What challenges, if any, did you face when it comes to I guess like the writing, the complexities of, writing about the criminal system essentially. How was that any challenge for you, or was it just was natural?
So there was definitely challenges. So, I personally am not a scientist, never had any
Mhm.
interest in being a scientist. So I
Right.
did have to do a lot of research,
Mhm.
especially because the protagonist, Danny West, she is a plant geneticist. So
Mhm.
she works in a field where she analyzes plants, and then from
Mhm.
those plants, she finds elements to create medicine. So I
Right.
didn't know anything about that. So I had to do research. I had to find which plants would work for which situation in the film, and had to
Right.
make sure that when she's being interrogated about certain things, like she knew what she was talking about. So in order to do that, I had to know what I was talking about. So I had to do research and look up, what plant causes this, or what plant
Mhm.
can be poisonous, or what plants have
Mhm.
medicinal benefits. So
Right.
definitely, this was not like an area that I was familiar with. And I've
Right.
also actually, this was my first of like official action film that I'd written.
Mm,
Usually I do a lot of like Christmas, of course, romance,
mhm,
comedy, drama, but not really like an action film. So this was like my first time kind
mhm.
of giving it a shot. So definitely was not easy, but I'm glad
Right.
I can
Yeah.
say that I have an action film. I can add that
Right.
to my
Yeah.
credits.
Right. Is it something that you would go into again? Like would action thriller be something that you would want to tackle again?
Definitely. I
Yeah.
love I'm a big fan of I love action movies, I love horror movies, I love comedies, of course. So I definitely want to be able to say I've done a little bit of everything. And I
Right.
also I want to make it very, very clear to myself as well that I don't want to be put into a box. So I don't
Hmm.
want to just be known for only doing Christmas movies or only doing
Right.
action movies. I want
Hmm.
people to say, "Oh, Clarence Williams, he has a horror film, he has a comedy, he has romance,
Right.
action." I want to do as much as I can. So
Exactly. That's
definitely
good.
looking forward to just continuing to build the body of work.
Right. Yes, that is really good. What message or themes do you hope the audience takes away from watching The Accused?
Definitely. So I think one main theme is the importance of justice and
Hmm.
how it's definitely not an easy journey to find justice, but you have to keep at it and you have to make sure that all of the things that you're doing lead back to kind of showing the world or the real you. Because I think
Hmm.
that's the whole journey is like Danny's trying to clear her name and show the world that she's being framed. And unfortunately, situation now, this is of course is a movie, so it's a little over the top, but
Hmm.
situations like this can occur where people are framed for things that they didn't do. And
Right.
unfortunately, sometimes in some situations they aren't able to clear their name. And some
Hmm.
people are, currently in prison for something
Right.
they didn't do. So it
Right.
was very important to tell a story about a woman who had, all of the odds against her. Her
Right.
fiance's killed. She doesn't know who she can trust, and
Mhm.
then now she has police officers who are trying to sabotage her and ruin everything that she's worked for. So I will definitely wanted to tell a story where we see that this character, one, is brave, one, she's badass, and
Mhm.
two, she is ready to do whatever she has to do to protect herself and to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So
Right.
that's definitely what I would love for people to take away from this film is that, you know,
Mhm.
don't give up, especially when you know that you're right. And
Mhm.
the importance of protecting your legacy and
Mhm.
protecting your name is of the utmost importance.
Very true. And like you said, you did a lot of research. Did you talk to any, I guess, police officers or anybody that worked in the criminal justice field to help develop this character or develop this plot even further?
So actually, nope, I didn't talk to anybody, but
Mhm.
I did do research again. So I would look up, when police are interrogating suspects, like what types of questions do they ask, or
Mhm.
how are they able to, how might a police officer frame somebody? So I definitely was looking into like realistic ways that these situations can come about, and then from
Right.
there, I was able to add that to the script.
Right. Wow, that's really good. I know, like definitely like clearing your name is definitely important in a lot of different areas. What's something you do creatively that no one sees but helps you the most, whether it's journaling, mood boarding, or things like that? What is your favorite thing that helps you the most?
I would say the most helpful thing for me is I take notes.
Mm,
So I actually just take it on my phone, but it's just random. So I just have
mm,
like a little folder or like a series of text messages that I send myself where
right.
it's just like a line of dialogue or a character name or like a plot, a storyline. So if you were to look at it, it just doesn't make sense. It's just a bunch of it looks like just jibber jabber because none of it's connected, but it's little things that I do to help myself. So if I like see something and I'm like, oh, that's a good storyline, I'll text
Mhm.
it to myself. Or if I just randomly think of a line of dialogue,
Right.
I'd like, oh, that would work in a
Right.
script. I would just send it to myself. So doing stuff like that is very helpful. So then I can just refer back to it and be like, oh yeah, yeah, that was what the character that I wanted to. That was the name of a character that I came up with, or that's a line of dialogue I want to use down the line. So that's what I would say is my. It's not. I don't even really think it's like a process or
Mhm.
something official that I do, but it's definitely very helpful
Right.
when it comes to writing.
Yeah, like when it comes to the mind, just go ahead and jot it down. Yeah, very
Exactly.
true.
Before you forget, because once it's
Yes,
gone, you might
exactly.
not get it back.
Right. So what's your dream project next? Like what is on the brain? Like be like, okay, now that I did this, what's next for you?
Well, definitely my dream project would be to write and direct uh something. See, that's kind of a tricky question because there's like I have like a horror movie that I really want to do, but then also I have just like kind of a simple character driven drama with a little bit of comedy that I'd like to do
Mhm.
as well. So I would say my dream project would be something that I'm writing and directing,
Mhm.
and something that isn't necessarily belonging into like a specific genre, like a Christmas or a romance, but just something that makes you think, something that you can
Mhm.
sit back, you can watch, you can
Right.
enjoy,
Right.
and something that you want to rewatch years and
Mhm.
years from now. I think that's like a big dream for me is to create something that just like, 20
Yeah.
years later, you're still talking
Right.
about it and you
Yeah.
still watch it and it's like you're seeing it for the first time.
Yeah.
So, because that's like the movies I love, that's what it feels like. And I'm sure you have movies that you
Yes.
watch
Uh-huh.
over and
Right.
over, no matter how
Over and
old
over.
they are.
Right. That
So
is
I think that's the
true.
dream.
Yes, that is very true. Like you said, to like 20 years from now, still like, oh, let me turn this on. Yeah, very
Exactly.
true. Yes. Well, thank you for joining me today, Clarence, and thank you all for joining me on an episode of Conversations with Epiphany, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. I want to thank Clarence Williams for joining me today, and I want to leave you guys with a clip from The Accused.
911, what's your emergency?
Hi, my fiance, he's not breathing.
I'm Detective Lance Branson. You want to tell me what happened here?
I came home from work and found my fiance. Jordan! Jordan! Then I was attacked by two intruders wearing masks.
There's no signs of forced entry. You two get into a fight?
I didn't do this.
Danny West worked at Veritan Solutions.